what I'm going to show you is really, my stuff is already in the calculator, so I'm just going to show you what that is, what the equation is, and kind of go from there. And then if we have questions, we'll go from there. So my stuff is in, you'll see a bunch of numbers. I did this at the same time, kind of. So all of your stuff from the first question should be in L1, L2. You go to stat edit or stat calc, find that equation, and it was a bunch of decimals, but it told you to round to the nearest hundredth, so 2 decimal places. So your equation for that first one should have been y equals 4.42. If you're rounding, x plus 105.85. If yours is close, but not exactly, maybe double check your data. You may have missed a decimal or put in a wrong digit or something like that. If yours is completely off, you've put in something wrong, so double check that as well. Do we have any questions on that one? As I was walking around, most of us that got this one had those numbers. The last one, remember anytime it says years, you need to change it. The first is always 0, and then every year after that is how many years has it been since. So these should be 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. So these are the numbers you're putting in along with these decimals, not the actual year. So instead of resetting my calculator, I just put this in L3, L4, which is fine to do if you remember that you put it in L3 and L4. So when I go into stat and I go into calculate, then I have to change that to L3 and L4. I just realized but if you just cleared out your calculator and put it back in L1, L2, that's fine too. For this one, I would highly recommend that you store it. I had already done that. Again, this one had a bunch of decimals. The equation for that one that I got was y equals 0.03 x plus 1.7. You can left it like that. I just put 0.1 just to have a little bit more decimals. This question asks, in which year would we expect to have 2.5 million voters? Since our years are our x's and they give us our y, you could either solve this or go to your table and look for that y value, which is what I did. So ignore the one in blue right now because that was for the first one. I'm looking at the red one. I had to scroll all the way down to find when y would be 2.5. And I could see when x is 29, that would be about that answer. But 29 isn't my actual answer. 29 tells me it's 29 years later from when it started. So I would need to add 29 to 1988 to figure out what actual year that is. So ignore this part because I originally did that wrong. But if I did that, I would find that 29 years later, it would be the year 2017. I know I kind of just ran through that a little fast, but do we have any questions on how I got that part of the answer?
How did you get to 27?
So from the table, I got that 29. So it was like all the way here. I scrolled down until I found this y value. I looked at what my x value was. Remember that we changed our x's from the years to these numbers. The numbers represent how many years later it is. And then I added this 29 to the original year.
How did you get the
Which table? This table.
yeah, how did you get the
So when you store this in your when you store this in here, then it stores it in y1 or in your y equals. Whatever's in your y equals, you can look at the table. So because I stored this in my y2 and then I calculated it, if I go into y equals, this is now in my y2. So because it's there, I can go into my table. So all of this was complete calculator work. So you have to be able to use your calculator and do these things in your calculator. Do we have any other questions on those two? If anything, you're still confused by anything on the calculator, come see me in the morning, afternoon, we can go through some problems together. If you haven't already, take out your linear regression notes. I'm going to talk about one last thing, and then I'm going to explain what we're doing for the rest of the class, along with tomorrow. Somewhere where you have blank space on your notes, I'm going to just write it at the top of this, but you can write it anywhere else. Write these two words. Interpolation, extrapolation. So I'm going to give you like a brief summary definition of what these mean. If we are interpolating something, these are data points within our set of data points. So inter, within, you can kind of think of that. Extrapolation, so if we extrapolate something, we're looking for some sort of data outside of our set of data. So when you continue to practice your linear regression, I would make either a mental note or like right off to the side, am I interpolating, am I extrapolating? So like, with this set of data we have, I think the questions asked about 0 hours and 6 hours. 0 hours is not really in this set of data. Our lowest is 1.5, our highest is 6.5. So 0 would be an extrapolation. So if you wanted to kind of put that as a note, when we did the 0, that would be extrapolation. When we found the 6 was within that set of data, so that was interpolating. And you can kind of think about your data like that as we keep going. We'll do one more thing because I know we did one other together. For this number 3, we were looking for life expectancy in 2010. Would that be interpolating or extrapolating? Was 2010 inside this set of data or outside? Outside. If it had said something like 1994, that would be interpolating, sorry. Or any of the numbers, any of the years in between, that would be interpolating. But anything not in our data is extrapolating. Do we have any questions on those two words? So let me explain what we're going to do for the rest of class today as well as class tomorrow. And you may need to write some of this stuff down. So I'm changing the order of the next week-ish. On your course calendar, I had originally had benchmark work scheduled for next Wednesday and Thursday. I'm changing that to today and tomorrow. Some of you may not need that, which is fine. So we're going to work on benchmark work today and tomorrow. And then Monday, Tuesday, we're going to do the last set of notes in this unit. Wednesday, we're going to take the parallel and perpendicular lines quiz, along with the word problems quiz, which we're going to do Monday, Tuesday. So Wednesday, we'll have those two quizzes. Thursday, we're going to go over that quiz. Next Friday, for those of you that need to, will be the benchmark day. Next, the following Monday, which is the 25th, will be the last part of the quiz, so the linear regression. I separated that because I know it's more calculator work and may take you a little longer. That Tuesday, the 26th, we'll go over that part of the quiz. And then the Wednesday, the 27th, we're going to take all 3 sections of the test on the same day. So I will post that on Canvas, change the board, all of that, so you have that information. It's also on the recording, so if you go back and listen to that, it's there as well. So today, I'm going to pass out your 2.3, 2.4 tests. You're going to look over those. If you want to retest, you're going to hold on to them just until the end of class. As well as, I'm going to pass back out your 2.1, 2.2, and if you needed to retake 1.1 and 1.2. So if you need to take the benchmark, here's what you all are going to be working on. Test corrections. I'm going to give you additional practice, and you're going to have a sheet that you need to fill out to tell me which ones you're retaking. If you're not taking any part of the benchmark, you're going to be continuing to practice your linear regression. So I would say right now, until you get tests back, work through any problems you didn't finish in this packet. And then when you get your test back, if you don't want to retest, you can hand those back to me. If you do want to retest, then you can start that process. But that's why we're also doing this tomorrow, so you have class time to get those done. Anyone have any questions on what we're doing today? If you